Do better today on DOOP By The River. The Philadelphia Union are back in action. We are back in MLS play. We're going to look ahead at this upcoming Saturday matchup against DC United. And don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of DOOP By The River. And let's get it started, guys.
DOOP By The River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. Right, welcome everyone to DOOP By The River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And of course, we're brought to you by Philly Sports Network. If you're watching this live here on YouTube, what is going on? Thank you so much for tuning on in. Welcome if you're coming from Twitter. If you're listening on in, I appreciate that as well. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe here on El Parcero Phillies YouTube channel. Of course, follow us here on Twitter and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. No, I'm not alone here, ladies and gentlemen. I may be the only PSNer here today, but that is okay. Of course, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking ahead at MLS is back. I know it feels like it's been 7 years since we played an MLS match, but our boys in blue will be back in action Saturday. They'll be facing off against DC United. We'll be down in DC. And, of course, we have to bring you the correspondence from the other side. So a dear friend of the podcast is back here today to help us look at Saturday's matchup. So without further ado, please welcome our dear friend Cheyenne, also known as Between Clean Sheets. Cheyenne!
It's me. I had to hype myself up listening to that intro. I was like, man, I need way more energy.
That's what we do here. We bring the energy, that duping energy here, but it's good seeing you, Cheyenne. What's going on, girl? What's new?
Oh my gosh. Everything's new and yet nothing. It's been a long time since we've spoke. I feel like two big things I should catch you up on. One that you'll really care about. I went to Colombia for the first time.
Hey!
Yeah.
And you didn't fall in love, which I'm even more proud of you.
Oh, I did. I just I feel like I was not receiving any love back, but from anything other than straight up the country in terms of its nature and all it has to offer. The beach, I went to the beach. I hung out in Medellin, which, you know, is like a freaking jungle. That I fell in love with that and it loved me back. But everything else, because here's the thing I have to admit, I don't speak any Spanish.
But that sometimes works in your favor, Cheyenne. You don't speak a lot of Spanish. You're like, oh, okay,
less work. Okay, she's smiling. She's smiling. Yeah, that, and then I also, after sustaining a really gnarly injury to my mouth playing soccer way back in the day in college, I finally had to get my front tooth replaced, like officially replaced with an implant. And so for a good part of this year, I was front toothless. So I'd given up, which is the theme for all of the information I'll bring to you on behalf of DC United.
Real quick,
we gave up.
I did want to ask you about that because
yes.
I feel like a lot of the times, like as soccer creators, like people expect us to just talk about soccer, but like even for myself, like I remember just like me myself, like before I even started making content, like I had no confidence in myself. The thought of getting behind a camera scared the crap out of me. And Cheyenne, like you literally, like for a lot of people, that's an insecurity that nobody wants to bring up.
Yeah.
And I literally saw your stories and you're comfortable talking. And I was like, fuck yeah, Cheyenne, go ahead, girl. Because like Cheyenne, like you may not understand this, but like someone out there may be going through the same thing and they're scared and they're hiding behind something. And that's really powerful in what you did in sharing your story. And I just wanted to commend you on that because that was a really cool story. Obviously not a fun situation, but definitely inspiring for sure.
Thank you so much. I don't think anyone's put it that eloquently or even told me to my face that it was a net positive. I think the experience for me was exhausting. And I think as I've grown older, one thing that I think translates really well to fandom. So anyone out there who like ride and dies with their team, you really have to pick and choose your battles in a life where everything is just so constantly clamoring for your emotional energy. And in order to enjoy things and be able to be present during things, I personally have had to compartmentalize a lot and recognize that none of the freak out or the anxiety I was going to have about missing a front tooth was going to change the fact that I didn't have a front tooth. So
That's
I think to me, I was like, I really could have leaned into it and been like the toothless soccer gal. But when the tooth came back, I knew everyone would be disappointed. But at the same time, um, I was not gonna wait for my life to get started until after I got the tooth back, and
Amen.
I was exhausted. So I appreciate that. My mom kept telling me how brave I was, which I was like, that's that's an interesting way of putting that. I think you're telling me I probably shouldn't. Like, wow, you're really brave for putting yourself out there that way. But I know this, and I'm sure you've thought about it too, that what I am providing has very little to do with how I look. It does have to do with me having an able body and having the privilege of going places, but I could look however when I get there, and what's in front of me is not going to change based on how I look. So if I'm there with a tooth, without a tooth, with makeup on, without makeup on, um, I'm now okay with it. I just want to be present, emotionally and physically, fully present. So
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And staying true to yourself. That's what I always say, and I always feel like you
yeah,
too. Kyle, what's
yeah.
going on, man? I hope you're having a great day, brother. I'm Kyle. Cheyenne, if you're ever in Subaru Park, Kyle is typically in the capo stand, does a great job, usually on the drums or on the megaphone. So, Kyle, hope you're having a great night, brother.
Hi, Kyle. I love the energy, and we can talk a little bit about y'all's last game of the Leagues Cup. I was really
Yeah,
nervous with the conversation that was happening about what kind of crowd was going to be there, and one of the first things I tweeted and really felt strongly about was how loud the entire supporter section and the crowd sounded on TV. I was really, really impressed.
yeah. It was So I was there with my photographer press pass. So like I love seeing I think that's like the best angle to not watch the match. Like obviously it's a great angle to watch the match,
Right.
but like watching like the fans, and that's really where I wanted to go down there because seeing Union fans interact with Messi fans, like not even Miami fans, like Messi fans,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was interesting. So obviously like that wasn't a fun night for us Union fans, but for you pretty much these days like you cover overall, like, what is your thoughts on this whole Messi mania in general?
I actually haven't articulated this out loud, but I've had so many thoughts. On the one hand, I'm selfishly very nervous about what that means for my ability to have access to some of these spaces to capture them from a content perspective. I think one of the most interesting things I've experienced is I did make a bit of throwaway content on my Instagram that mentioned Messi and how him being here meant that I might actually be able to go watch a Leagues Cup final or an Open Cup final on TV. And the comments were just um so inappropriate for what it was, people calling me like sweetie or pumpkin, or saying like you're calling it soccer so you don't know what you're talking about, or like this is the Messi effect, don't you know Messi, like you must be new here. And I thought,
No,
man,
you're new here.
yeah,
Literally,
yeah.
you're new here.
I'm like, get off my page. No, to me, I'm like, man, this guy is way too nice
That's the
of a public
crazy part.
figure for people to be this um casually rude. And I know that they get even crazier because people are constantly yelling about Messi versus Ronaldo, or
Oh,
constantly saying that if you miss a goal or play one bad game, that means your career is terrible. I think that's the disappointing thing. I'm thinking about it now, is there's so many people who tuned into the game to see Philadelphia or to see Miami, and then because of it they see Philadelphia. And every single time Miami has played a new team, I'm like, I just want the opponent to show out well so that they're not made to be a joke. And so I found myself in the aftermath trying to explain, well, no, Philly was operating with this kind of missing piece on the offensive side, or like they normally play this really well. I'm like, no, Andre Blake is so good, but they like weren't doing me any favors. I know they weren't doing you any favors. So
yeah,
that's, to me, that's the frustrating part, is I don't want people to laugh about how the rest of MLS is a joke, because it really isn't.
I know.
And I was really hoping Philadelphia was going to be that team. But I mean, did you watch Cincinnati and Miami last night?
So we were live streaming the Phillies game, but we had people commenting in the chat for it.
You
So
talk
I was
about other sports in Philadelphia? That's crazy.
crazy content.
Chester
no,
only. I'm just kidding.
but no, the just being honest about last Tuesday, we didn't
Yeah.
show up, and I was blatantly honest about it. Like, just so like you talked about Andre. Andre doesn't have goals like that happen often. Like, rarely ever has that happen. The Jim Curtin's lineup left a lot to be desired. It was very conservative in a matchup where I felt you have to be really aggressive, especially when you're going up against that attack. It's not even just Messi. I mean, people forget like Miami has an MLS
Yes.
MVP. Like
Yes.
it's still there. You know, shouts to Taylor. What's his name? Chris Taylor. The one Robin Taylor. He's had one of the
Oh, yes. Sorry.
no, I mean, I blanked too. He's had one of the biggest effects with Messi being there as well.
Actually,
And
can I interrupt and say
yeah,
no one should have until Messi and Busquets and this whole like cluster of guys arrived. No one was paying attention to Miami, and rightly so. Like what was there to watch? So when someone wants to talk to me, like my
literally.
endodontist, by the way, I'm still getting work done on my teeth. I had a root canal the other day, and I was wearing a Brandy Chastain shirt, and he asked me about soccer, and then he goes, "Oh, I'm a big Messi fan. I bought Apple TV because he's there," and I'm like, "You're the guy that Don Garber cares about. Like, I know there's more of you because this is why this is such a good idea for Messi to come, whatever." And then I said something about Miami turning things around, and they're in last place, and he goes, "What?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I don't
I
want
just
to.
thought they won the whole league with that league's
Oh my
company.
gosh, yeah. That's what some of these comments are that I'm getting on stuff. It was like Messi will win the World Series. I'm like, get out of here. It's a friend. I I don't know. I feel like part of me wants to educate, and the other part of me wants to ignore. The other part of me wonders, you can't ever do it bigger than Messi. So what if we just like ride this wave? And I say this from the perspective of you and me, the work that we do to cover the sport, to grow it in America. That train is going to have Messi on it for a second, but he's going to get off pretty quickly after.
Yeah.
And what is it going to look like after he gets off the
Yeah.
train? So I don't know.
We
Yeah,
gotta
I
capitalize it, dude.
interrupted. Continue. I don't even
No,
remember what we were talking about.
no, you're good. I just in general, like we do have to. I like I understand what Messi brings to this league, and I've always loved Messi.
Sure.
Like you
Mhm.
know, like how can you not? But yeah, this fan base is just absolutely it's too much. It's honestly too much. But yeah, let Miami have this fun. That is a market that, let's be honest, we've done a disservice to. It took like 6,000 years for that club to even happen.
And
And
they've
now
done it wrong literally the
yeah,
entire time until 2 months ago. So
and they happen to get the best, and he's still the best player in the world, and then you can clearly see that. So
right.
I'm just like I said before, I'm a little fatigued by it. I'm you know me, I'm a Union guy. I want to see the league grow, but I love my team, and that's just how the type of fan that I am. I'm not a fan of a player. But yeah, we'll see how it happens. I think right now Miami has the third best odds of winning the MLS Cup, even though they're not in a playoff place in Vegas. It's Vegas, so you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So,
Sure. Yeah,
literally,
I actually will say, for anyone who wants to get who is interested in betting and odds, et cetera, the amount of times I've had someone explain over under to me, and I'm like, I don't over under what? I don't know. Anyway, who
we got
knows?
our
Who
sources,
cares?
so
All I know is I have a Robinhood account, and I have driven across the border from DC to Virginia to throw some money into FanDuel. And I will say, based on how it's been explained to me, there are a lot of odds that are way off on out of Vegas, and so there is an opportunity if you are an absolute MLS sicko to make some money off of that. But at the same time, like, and who would predict half of the games that happen in this league? And I'm thinking back to last year. Y'all beat us a combined 13 goals to 0, and
and this
I
year,
can. I was also thinking we're about to bookend our August with a game against y'all, Leagues Cup
yeah,
game against y'all for regular season, and I don't. don't have high hopes for us, but if you were like, oh, do you think there could be another 7-0? That luckily I would hope that that's in the past. So
let's
I
talk
hope.
about that real quick about this DC
Yes.
squad. I'll be honest, like I haven't heard a lot from DC for good reason. I feel like this whole Taxi Funtas thing has really just had this dark cloud over Audi Field.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of talk to us about that situation, the conclusion of it, and kind of what the psyche is now after him going. Where do you go? Turkey, I think I saw.
It was a cluster of consonants. So if there was some team in Eastern Europe, then I feel like he was a part of. We wouldn't be off.
Did you ever
In guessing
interact?
that.
Did you ever
Did
interact with
I?
that?
No. I did see him briefly at the All-Star game last year, which
Got
let's
it.
paint the picture really quick. He was like uh I don't know how close he got to being in Golden Boot contention, but I feel like he was up there. He was an all-star. He played really well. And then
It was good.
last fall against Miami at home, there was an incident, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was one of those things where like, yeah, that's really unfortunate for someone to say that they experienced it. You would never want someone to experience that kind of verbal assault, and they did their due diligence. In my opinion, how much can you do in that situation? And I felt like they handled it as best they could, but it's never like objectively good. To do any sort of investigation, there was nothing on camera, nothing picked up by sound equipment, the ref, etc. Very unfortunate situation, and it then happened again. At this point, it was before the All-Star game, and it wasn't announced until after the All-Star game, which everyone knows was hosted in DC, that it was mentioned something happened between two players on our team, and Taxi was accused of doing the same thing again. And so this go around, it was like, oh, so a repeat offender, so to speak, and then also not even handled very well by the front office. Clearly, like all the things going on during All-Star must have been important enough for them to prioritize that over being transparent, and on top, not even on top of that, but separate of that, it's a bad vibe to create within the team. If you're saying those things or doing those things to your own teammate, like, there's a huge problem. Whatever was said was bad enough that the player Nigel Roberta threw a like foam roller at Taxi. So it went both verbal and physical. And then separate of that, but still plays into it, Taxi's one of the only guys that's really scored for us. And so it's like a whole other thing to then have to figure out how you replace him or how you make that work. And like the wheels keep turning, but a lot of the fans are left behind with a very bad taste in their mouth over the experience. So that's what we're dealing with. And I think that our measure of success this year is to make the playoffs. I really wonder if we even do that. So if you do travel down, to Audi Field, you might see a win for yourself if you're a Union fan. And you'll think to yourself, well, don't feel too bad for DC United. A lot of those things they brought upon themselves.
Yeah.
So
No, like, obviously, like I know we need to like kind of state this, but like, there's nowhere where racism belongs in our game. Like, we don't need to state that.
Right.
But let's be realistic here. So DC has a tough position, right? Because they like the people making this decision weren't there. You just go off what the teammates said, right? And on the other hand, the front office is under pressure because if you think about it, this club really since like the 2000s, if it wasn't for Wayne Rooney, we're talking about an irrelevant club in this league. So the pressure to win, the pressure to make the playoffs is obviously there. Wayne Rooney's back as a manager now as well. So that is a tough decision there. Obviously, like as fans, it's easy for us to say you need to get him out as soon as possible, but there's more involved to it than that.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, you had to get rid of him, and just be solely because there's no way the chemistry in that dressing room was good after that situation.
Right.
But it's an unfortunate situation. Clearly, this man has these beliefs. If it's that was my thing. Like, one time, I'm with you. Like, one time, okay, do the investigation, see what happens. Didn't really come out of it. Okay, but a second time, like, this isn't like baseball. This isn't 3 strikes and you're out. Like, dude, like, there's literally no room for it, none whatsoever. So it is
Right.
a tricky spot for the club to kind of be in there.
The other thought that I had was, even if there wasn't a racial component and it was just 2 players arguing, that's still not how I want my dressing room of the team I support
Yeah.
to be. It is a sign of larger issues. So I think people are like, you can't make a decision over a man's livelihood over this, as if I heard many people say that. I have very, very few people say that, but the people who are sometimes play devil's advocate, I would say, are far louder than they should be. So my response to that, in the very few times that I had to talk about it, was, okay, but there are other teams, and it's clear that the personality, again, separate of the word, was causing an issue. And if he were like, if he were scoring and crushing it, and it was like a well-oiled machine, I could understand why the less ethical option to keep him around and try to work him in. I can understand why teams would do that. I think there's a habit among teams in the NFL who do that all the time. And but still, like, he wasn't even really providing us with any sort of top 5 team in the East, let alone the whole league quality. So, like,
Well,
he's not the only dude. He's not the only dude we could sign to the team. So
yeah, that's true. What's the consensus with the fan base right now with this club? Like, are they still like kind of pushed off? Like, are they still sour on the club?
I would say they're pretty sour. I
Okay.
think that you'll notice, like, our supporter section isn't putting up tifo. Um, there's never any sort of good social media engagement with them. Even the whole All-Star game, to me, was such a dud. Having attended, I was like, man, well, even the Arsenal, even the Arsenal fans were boring. I will say, okay, but this is another thing. We haven't talked about the fact that I went to the World Cup. Anyone who is listening or watching, I
Hey,
went to 19 matches in 16 days.
holy
And
shit!
it was so emotionally overwhelming, and it was so overstimulating that I'm still like wading through my content. So if you want to like relive it a year later, definitely watch my stuff. But there was a huge difference in the way that, like, England and France and Wales and all these Western European countries engaged in the game. Huge difference between them and African teams and South American teams, like night and day. To me, I'm like, man, I feel like Euro snobs, the people who lecture me a lot about fandom in the Premier League and how we should be more like them, or like all of the standards that they set and how superior people feel about them. I'm like, you guys are really boring. You guys are really boring fans. But if I would hop on the Doha metro, and it would be full of Brazilians traveling for a game that was still 3 hours out, and I couldn't even hear myself on the
Wait. Are you
platform.
talking about the men's or the women's world? Because I was thinking you were saying the.
Men's. Oh,
Okay,
men's.
okay.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I went to the Women's World Cup.
That looked like fun. That looked like fun.
Yeah, right? My hope was that I would go and make content, but this year's been a crazy year for me,
I
and
gotcha.
I think Doha also is just, they're very, very different events, I'll say that. Both World Cups, very different events from what I understand, but Doha was just a lot. So,
I'm just
yeah.
glad. I'm just glad Columbia has a team that we can get behind
Oh
now,
my
and we're
gosh.
actually getting behind them too, which is more important than anything else.
Oh yeah, which I loved watching Melissa Ortiz experience all of that. That was
Yeah, it
really
was fun.
awesome.
She did great.
So,
They were inspiring. They definitely were inspiring. Well, they
Yeah,
could use some of that in DC, that's for sure. So what is this
right.
what is this club now? Like what are we expecting here from DC on Saturday?
Our transfer window was left a lot to be desired. I think the one big guy that we've brought in that is a taxi replacement would be this Panamanian forward, Fajardo. It's Fajardo. Remember, I don't speak Spanish, so I assume though the J.
I
We know the J is the H. The J is H. Um, he scored in the Gold Cup a couple times. He's a Panamanian national,
okay.
and I think if
Okay.
anyone's gonna like
Okay.
pick it up and turn it around, it might be him. Christian Benteke, who we spend a lot of money on to be that finisher, super tall guy,
Uh-huh.
center forward, has just not shown up. Which
Oh,
I
okay.
know you guys have seen in your interactions with us, but we're we just leave a lot to be desired. I think we're not finishing well. We're not connecting in the other half well. And Tyler Miller has become like the stand-in goalkeeper for every crazy goal scored over the past
Okay.
several years. So he's like, him in goal is just very nerve-wracking all the time. It always seems like he plays way out of position. That's actually one thing that would be enjoyable to watch for your own enjoyment, is just seeing just how close to the midline our own goalkeeper Tyler Miller gets. Um,
Wow.
those are some of the things that that you can look forward to. You get to see Wayne Rooney,
So
and
I
that's
mean
about it.
the last two matches have been in Chester. You guys have played us much more tougher than you did even
This
last
is
year.
true. This is true.
And it really felt like you guys just were very compact and it was just really hard to move through. And the last match in Leagues Cup, we were pitting a lot of balls over the top, and we were trying to find success that way. It was difficult, and obviously we had our luck in PKs. But curious if DC kind of sticks to that again. I mean, not park the bus per se, but just keep that compactness with their formation. And that's something that you see a lot here in Philly as well. With all three lines, they kind of don't move too far apart from one another, and that was one of the key factors of DC having a good success in the last two matches against us. And I was there for the
Yeah.
first one in the regular season, and that one was just a frustrating match by our attack. They just could not get anything good on that. So curious to see
I
how it turns out
think
this one.
if I remember correctly, I think like Lewis O'Brien and Chris Durkin would have played a big role in it going that way. We no longer have Lewis O'Brien. He is back at Nottingham Forest. We had him on on a loan and opted not to continue, which is kind of a bummer because he held in the midfield really, really well. And it allowed us to get our form when we were doing anything other than packing it in pretty tight. I
Okay.
bet we'll continue to do that. I don't think that we have, which is interesting given Christian Benteke's presence on the field. Um, we're not putting balls to feet uh, in anything other than short distances, I feel. So it's kind of unfortunate that you won't see any incredibly entertaining soccer from us. But I don't know. You guys press higher than we do, far higher. I think we've got a subdued front line. So in that way, turnovers, if you guys are quick about it, will probably have us beat there. But
What really surprised me in the Leagues Cup match was Jackson Hopkins. The kid is got
yeah.
confidence.
So he like last year, it was actually a point of conversation that he was getting an unusually high number of starts given Wayne Rooney's confidence in him. And I remember thinking, "Oh wow, okay, this is earned." But I couldn't pinpoint a single thing. I know enough to get you by, but I'm not so tactically in. And to be quite honest, I've taken a step back from DC with how just disappointing they've been to me on the
Yeah.
field. But he was a little hit or miss, and I want to say that he was injured. Um, Di Pietro is one of those guys too, who I think plays really, really, really well when he's having a good day. And maybe they have those good days. I don't know. We have a lot of games at home. I think the next 4 out of the next 5 games are at home. So it's like a nice little stretch. But at the same time, we had such a poor performance against the Red Bulls last week. And I thought we had like almost a whole month, well, 3 weeks to like get our act together. Did we meet and touch a ball? Did you guys practice? Did you guys go to the training ground? Can I also, this is so random, but I found out, they had both the Open Cup semifinal games last night, but they
Right.
also had Colorado at LAFC. Colorado
Wow.
traveled same day to play LA.
Holy crap. I didn't even know that we had MLS play yesterday.
Listen, we're on East Coast time. I don't have the energy for a 10:30 p.m. game, especially after I felt like the Cincinnati Miami game just like I broke a sweat watching it. I still can't get over that game. I don't know. It's at this point, it's a storybook, and if they don't win the Open Cup, I'm gonna be like, that's stupid. Like, I want to be able to read in a history book how insane this was and say I lived it. But then, like 90% of me was like, "Oh, Cincinnati! I wish you would won. I wish you had won it."
And Miami's gonna win league. Well, they won League Cup. They're gonna win Open Cup, and then they're gonna miss the playoffs.
No, someone said they're gonna win the treble. I'm like, that does not exist here. Like, would they won't even win the Supporters Shield. Like, we care when you win the Supporters Shield and the MLS Cup, and they're not getting the Supporters Shield. So like, there's no treble here. That was another thing that these Messi fans were saying.
Does the wooden spoon count for anything?
I imagine it would be gold. If Miami gets it, they're like, we will paint this gold for you, and we'll have Mark Anthony sign it. Man, I do feel for all of the all the people who are not expecting the amount of eyeballs that they're getting now. I thought about this yesterday. I'm like, I wonder if there's this 22-year-old fresh out of college, super green social media manager that is just being inundated with stuff from the Open Cup like Instagram page or the Open Cup Twitter handle, because I really feel for them.
Yeah,
it's exciting, but it's overwhelming.
Absolutely. So. Real quick, can I get a prediction for Saturday night?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna guess a draw.
That's fair.
1-1.
That I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. DC's played us very tough this year.
Yeah, I was just so mean to them for the past however many minutes we've been doing this. But I do want you to know, MLS is insane.
What's up, Jose?
And nothing makes sense. Jose, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. We've been doing okay at home. We haven't. That's such a lie.
Yes,
we're surviving.
A lot of Union fans would like to see some more of our new signing, Tai Barribo, Israeli international. The thought is he comes in, is our depth piece at forward. Maybe Carranza gets sold off. He replaces him, but he got some minutes against Monterrey in a third-place match last Saturday. So Union fans are hoping to see some more from Barribo. We will see there. Cheyenne, before we head out, it wouldn't be right if we're an American soccer content creators to talk about what happened today with the San Diego Loyal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So after this year, they will no longer be a thing. And as we all know, San Diego, whatever they're going to call themselves, will be around soon rather than later. So, I mean, I loved them. I thought they were a great story. I really found out about the Loyal during the whole homophobia stuff and Landon Donovan sticking up for his teammate. I was like, if I couldn't love Landon anymore, I love them even more after that one.
Right.
It was such a great story, and now is another USL club that has to defunct because of expansion. Kind of your thoughts on the Loyal defuncting and just this whole USL's being all dissolving because of MLS expansion.
So let me give you some background here really quick. I actually worked for a consulting firm in 2018 that
Okay.
helped manage the campaign for the ballot initiative in San Diego that, if it had passed,
Sick.
would have brought an MLS expansion team
Okay.
to the city, which is so wild because it was not the kind of politics that I was planning to work in, or what that firm normally did. But I remember moving out there essentially, and it was working with Landon Donovan every day. I worked a lot with a woman who was a broadcaster at the time, who is now married and is expecting her second child with Matt Polster,
Holy snap.
of the New England Revolution. Her name's Brittany. She's fantastic. She
Small
works
world.
there. Yeah, it was a bunch of soccer people that came in, and they called it colloquially Soccer City was the what they called the ballot initiative, but it was Measure E. And the group of investors who were local at the time and who Landon was working with, were threw so much money behind it, and were just really willing to make that entire Mission Valley area a destination with mixed use space, commercial, residential, park space, room for San Diego State, a stadium for a soccer team. And it's for all of you sports fans out there, it is where Qualcomm Stadium was, where the Padres used to play, the Chargers used to play, and we're at the stadium I grew up going to when I was younger. And
Great open space.
you what?
No, it's just saying great open space.
Oh, yes.
What-
It's also like, it's now for a while was the site of a really great flea market too. That was like what they used the parking lot for after it kind of stopped being used. But unfortunately it didn't pass. And I have a whole host of reasons for why I think it was doomed from the start, from a marketing perspective. But there's some story there, because after that there was a split. These guys did not continue trying to make it happen on the private side. Landon kind of joined with the chairman and owner of the San Diego Loyal. A bunch of people that worked on the campaign kind of trickled off that way. And with COVID happening, with them trying to pick up the pieces from a failed ballot initiative and still being able to manage a lot of what they did, between then 2018 and now, the valuation of MLS franchises, and especially expansion teams, has just skyrocketed. And so the kind of like grassroots build from the ground up thing that San Diego Loyal did could work in any other city, but a city as big as San Diego, where you can have people, other investors, and other businessmen, women come in and create something as big as an MLS team, they
Uh-huh.
they were up against something that they couldn't compete with. And part of me wonders, like, why didn't they combine? That's to me where the drama is, and I kind of want to find it out. But it is really, really disappointing, because it was so unique
It was.
and so authentic to San Diego.
It's really unfortunate, and I mean, they're not the only market as well. It's had it happen, and like what people don't realize is that, like, for these smaller markets, I can't speak for San Diego but I would assume, like, they have this team. They're thinking like, we'll never get MLS. I'm gonna jump in full with the Loyal, and then boom, they fall in love, and now the Loyal is gone. So that definitely just sucks. It absolutely does.
It does.
Jose will be down there. Yes, Jose. If you see Cheyenne,
Ooh.
Cheyenne is the sweetest person you'll ever meet down there. So say hello. Say
Oh,
hello.
down in DC, I probably am the sweetest. Everywhere else, I'd be like, that weirdo. I'm getting more ornery. So yes, Jose, I would love to meet. I am definitely going. I just haven't decided if I'm going in my club level seats or if I'm going to go in the supporter section. The club level situation has just become untenable. So it's like especially after All-Star and watching all of the nice furniture that they brought in for All-Star receptions, and then seeing what we normally sit in or hang out in. It's one of those things where I'm like, I mean, this is pretty nice, but it's not nice for how much I pay for it.
Yeah.
And I'm in the
Feel that.
fourth year of my 5-year contract, which, if any of you follow me, I've I complain about that contract all the time.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you whatsoever.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here.
we
With
are happy to have you
God's
here.
light shining down on me in my bedroom. These are my clean sheets. My little scarf. I don't even have DC, earthquakes, galaxy, Colorado, and US.
There you go.
Who is
There you
she?
go, you
We
got
don't
it.
know.
Cheyenne, we really appreciate you having you
Yeah.
come in here again, giving us a perspective down in our nation's capital. Let people know, where can they find your great work here, Cheyenne?
You can find me on just about every platform. It's at BTWN Clean Sheets. And I have a podcast that I release, sometimes video, sometimes not, depending on how tired of my own face how tired I get of seeing my own face, rather, in the editing process. But one thing I will say is, for the past 2 years, I have gone up to Chester for every single one of y'all's playoff games. And I imagine this year I will be doing it again. I love the atmosphere. I love the hoodies and jersey combo of people just standing in the parking lot like they're getting ready for a high school football game, pounding back beers. There is something about that that experience that I really just love.
That doesn't happen in most markets, right?
It doesn't. It doesn't. When we got Audi Field, our entire parking lot situation was gone. And there's so many other stadiums that are, as they're being built, are just we are so adamant about being in the city that we would rather have people just show up and drink at the bars that are outside the stadium and go in. I'm like, no. The first year that I went for a playoff game in Chester, I forget his name, but it was something wild, like Marble or something.
Okay.
This guy who was missing some of his front teeth, so I knew immediately he was kin. Given the issues with my front teeth, and I couldn't find a place to park. I didn't want to pay like $40, so I had kind of made a U-turn in his little front drive, and he was like, "Oh, you could park here. Is $20?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot, I don't have money." He goes, "Just park. You'll be fine." And he watched my car, and he was so kind. And I ended up mailing him $20. When I was leaving that night and driving back, I dropped a pin, and I was like, I hope this is his address. And I just put his first name, whatever his nickname was, because I know it wasn't his, I was about to say government issued. It wasn't his Christian name. It was some strange nickname. And I was like, I hope this got to him. And he just lives outside of Subaru Park. That guy's living everyone else's dream to live right outside of their stadium.
But Cheyenne, that so it's a stadium. So you see that all the time, not only for the Union, but I think it was adopted because Eagles and Phillies, that's what you see. It's the layers. So it's baggy jeans because there's layers upon layers under those jeans. You got typically Timberlands, but if not, some type of work boot. You got 3 hoodies on the jersey, and then you got the beanie
and a beanie.
That's classic. Yeah, you're drinking Miller, Bud Light, whatever cheap beer they're
But
drinking.
it's also everyone's just a little bit hunched over, and their hands are sometimes they have gloves, sometimes they don't, because you're like, wow, you have so much stuff keeping you warm. How did you forget the hand part? I'm like, no, I got hand warmers. And then there's one in their sleeve right here, and they're like, let me get it. Okay.
Oh man, I might have to make a skit about this, kind of trying to explain this, because I don't feel like in MLS people are used to that, because that's just such a Philly thing.
Can I tell you something? The game, I think it was the game, the very first time where it was the conference final, New York City at Philly.
Game?
Yes. Was that the year that New York went on to win?
Yeah, the MLS
Cup.
Yeah, 21.
Okay. So this was 2021, and I remember I had some friends who were coming to see the New York game, or coming from New York to see the game, and they said, "Oh, hey, come say hey." So I go to the Sons of Ben tailgate. I get those, those that cookie tray that's just cookies with sprinkles, shortbread cookies or whatever. It's very, I don't know if it's Italian or if it's a Hispanic culture thing or Jewish. I don't know, but it's bakery cookies.
Okay.
I'm so
were they white. All white ones, and they had the rainbow sprinkles on it?
Yeah, yes. lots of what I imagine are called like ladyfingers. I don't know. So
Okay.
anyway, so I'm eating that. We're like eating all the great food that they prepared. It's very like tailgate in a dirt parking lot. And then I walk around the riverside
Uh-huh.
to where the New York City fans are tailgating, and they have a DJ, but like a classy fancy DJ. The guy's definitely got a mustache, and they are having mixed drinks, like
What?
essentially cocktails
Cocktail?
made for
Are you
them, and
serious?
they had a like local distillery sponsoring, and
Okay.
had a guy like going around taking pictures like they were at a being promoted for some sort of a club. And I thought, this is like MLS meets Sex in the City. And I did just come from an Always Sunny episode on the other side of the stadium. Like, this is so different. This is so
You're
very
like at a
different.
Hollywood set, you know, you're going from Always
Yeah.
Sunny to Sex in the City. That is freaking amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and
That's
I'll tell you
so
what, Always Sunny over everything. I will be driving, I forget when this is, September, October. I will be driving up to Philly to go see them play,
you're
or to
always welcome
perform their show, so their
here.
podcast
Okay.
show.
Awesome. Awesome.
What's it
Well, awesome
called?
stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking for a long time,
Nah,
but
it's
I'm
all
so
good.
happy to be here. We should definitely connect,
Yes. Yes.
more.
We will be connecting during the playoffs. But Cheyenne, I appreciate you as always. You know, you're always welcome here in Philadelphia, and I
Thank
can't wait to talk
you.
to you soon.
Of course, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Cheyenne, aka Between Clean Sheets. Thank you so much for watching Duke by the River today. We'll be back again next week. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe for more. Subscribe on wherever you stream podcasts. Until next time, I'm telling you guys to Duke on. Talk to you guys at the